Hello everyone. In this video, we'll add animation to the character. We'll need a service called Mixamo. It's a library with ready-made animations. We'll also learn to create and program animations switching in Unity. The character in our game can run, stand, and dance when it reaches the finishing line. There are several options to get these animations. You can create them in a third-party 3D editor or directly in Unity. The simplest option, which I'll show you, is taking animations from Mixamo. Before we move on to creating animation, let's see how our character is organized. This yellow guy represents a hierarchy of bones. You can expand it. You can expand all the tabs at the same time if you hold the Alt button and click on this triangle. So, we can see that it has bones, for example, a spine, and you can rotate them, like this. When you come across a character in a game or buy or download some kind of model or asset, this is usually how it works. The character has a number of bones and the geometry linked to it. Here is the mesh. There's a special component, Skin Mesh Renderer. All the character's bones twist the mesh. The points of its bones are linked to this mesh. You can move its bone from frame to frame and create animations by keys. But this is something that requires experience. Animators spend years learning this, and it takes even an experienced animator hours to execute. So we'll go the easy way and download the ready-made animations from the Mixamo service. Let's open the browser and go to the Mixamo website. Mixamo.com, you need to register. I hope you managed with the registration. The site window looks like this. There are two tabs, Characters and Animations. In this tab, we can choose a ready-made character. We have our own character, but the ones they offer here are also quite interesting. So if it doesn't matter and you want to use a human character in the game prototype, why not? There are quite realistic characters here. These guys, for example. Even in our game, you don't have to use our yellow stick man. You can use one of these guys instead. And it will work out too. We can also upload our character here. To do this, click the Upload Character button and select the file. The file we have is in the Unity project. This is the folder I sent you. Here it is, the file is called manfbx. Look, it's uploaded. It's got a black head here, but it doesn't matter. Some kind of basic animation is even being played. This service is pretty smart. You can upload various characters with different skeletons here. They may or may not have fingers, they may have a different number of vertebrae, but they must be anthropomorphic. You can't upload a dog here, unless it walks on two legs. That's it, now click Next. Our character is displayed here now. Let's go to this tab. It's the animation library. There are a lot of them here. Usually, these animations are made using motion capture, so they are quite realistic. You can browse here. There are a whole bunch of them, but it's more convenient to use the search. We need 3 types of animations now. First, an animation for running. Run. You can basically choose whatever you like. This one is not too bad. You can also customize all animations. We need to tick the In Place box because our character runs in place. We'll move it using a script, so we just need the animation to play. There are also some cool sliders, like speed. These parameters don't just increase the animation playback speed, they really change how the character runs. Here it runs slowly, at a measured pace, and here it runs fast. It's a cool algorithm that really understands what's going on. I think the standard parameters suit us. You can also change the arm space. It will now run like this. If you have a fat character, you can put its arms a little further away, because otherwise they may overlap with its body. Okay, good. This animation will do. Now click the Download button to download it. Here you can choose FBX for Unity. there's this special option. If you select it, the animation names will be more correct than in the standard FBX option. We can download the model with or without the mesh. Let's download it, with skin, to make it clearer. If you choose, without skin, it'll weigh less but will also work. Now download it. We also need animation of the character just standing still and doing nothing. This is called idle. I think this one is quite good. I recommend choosing the animation with its legs on the same level, where the character is still. Otherwise, animation transitions may look weird. Okay, let's make him tough, like this. Now download it. Same here, Unity with skin. We'll also need animation of the character dancing in the end. There are a lot of animations on this website that work great for games. Animations of a character taking damage, falling, dying, or being happy. You can find a lot of stuff like that here. Choose the animation that you like best. This is not bad. Download it. Right. All animations have downloaded. Now drag them to Unity. To make it more comfortable, let's create an animations folder here. And drag all the downloaded FBX files to it. These names here tell you what the files refer to. Look, this is a standard FBX file, but if you expand it, you can see what it consists of. The character's mesh is here. If we choose this body object, we see it's the character's mesh. The FBX file also contains the material and a file with animation. Here we have a problem. It looks like there are two animation files in this FBX file. This triangle means it's an animation file. And there are two of them here. One is called Mixamo.com, and the other Hip Hop Dance. But even though this file is called Hip Hop Dance, it's actually an empty file where the character just stands still. What we really need is this file. You wouldn't want to check what's inside the FBX files, so I suggest extracting the animation file from the FBX file. This is how. Select it and press Ctrl-D. As if you were copying it. To avoid getting confused, let's rename it right away. That's where the character dances. So I'll call the file Dance. We'll do the same thing with all the other files. Select this file. You can see this file is where it runs. You can even play it. Again, Ctrl-D, let's call it Run. And this one idle. After we extract these animations, we can completely remove these FBX files from the project. This is all we'll need. The next thing to do is create transitions between animations and set conditions for switching. To do this, we need to add a special component for our character, this man object, which is called Animator. Not to be confused with animation. This is a special component to configure switching between animations. It has a controller field. You need to upload a special file here. Right-click in the project, Create, Animator Controller. Here it is, Animator Controller. Let's give it a name like Player. Drag this player file here. Double-click on the controller to open the Animator window. This is where we're going to configure everything. First, we need to drag all the animations that we have here. You can select them one by one or select all and drag them here. There'll be all sorts of arrows that show how one animation switches to the other. The first thing we see here is the entry block and the arrow that goes to run. This orange thing means that this will be the starting animation. The first one to play. We need it to be inactive in the beginning, so we click on the idle animation and select Set as Layer Default State. And it becomes default. Next, you need to create parameters in the Parameters tab. Click on the plus sign here. There are different types of parameters here: bool, float, int. Now we're going to create a bool parameter and call it run. The idea is that this parameter will switch, like this. When it's on, the character will run, and when it's off, the character should stop. Now we need to create transitions between animations. Right-click, make transition, and drag the arrow here to run. The inspector here on the right displays all sorts of settings. If you select the arrow, you can configure it here. The most important thing to choose here is the transition condition. Click on the plus sign and select Run True. This is what we need. The transition occurs when run gets the true value. Next, we create a transition back. The condition for this arrow is different, false. You can also configure transition durations here. For example, this thing here sets the time during which one animation switches to another. It's not very convenient that we can't see it now though. You can drag a model to this field. You can take a model of our character and drag it here. Then it'll be used to illustrate the transitions. Here it runs, then slowly comes to a halt, and does nothing. Well, I think it looks fine now. Quite natural. But you can tweak these settings to your liking. Another very important option has exit time. If it's active, it means the transition won't occur until the animation plays to the end. We don't need it now. We want to release the button and have the character stop immediately, so deselect this box. Both here and for this arrow. We're not going to work on the dancing animation in this lesson because the character is dancing only when it reaches the finishing line. But let's create conditions for it now. Create a new parameter type. It'll be trigger. Let's call it dance. So, we see how the bool parameter works. It can be active or inactive. However, dance is activated only once. If it's activated, the transition to animation occurs. Later we'll see how it works in practice. So, the character switches to dancing if the dance trigger has been activated. We need both the run and the idle animations to switch to dance. Set the transition conditions if dance trigger occurs. The same goes for the other arrow. We don't need exit time here either. We want the character to start dancing as soon as the event occurs. Basically, we have set up the animator. But now, as you probably guessed, we need to be able to manage it using the code. These parameters are what links the animator to our scripts. Let's go to the script that now controls the character's running, play or move. In it, create a link to the animator. Add a new field here, serialize field. Animator. Don't get confused. Not animation, but animator. You might be confused when you have to come up with a name for it, but as it's the animator, you can just call it _animator. With an underscore. One more thing. You may have noticed that I didn't type private here. This field is private, but I didn't write it here. This is purely out of habit. If the access modifier is private, you don't need to write it. If you don't write it, it's implied by default. If you want to make the field public, you need to type public, but if you don't write anything, it's automatically assumed to be private. There are also various styles. Different companies may adopt different styles of writing code. Personally, I prefer a style where the word private is omitted. But you should understand that if you decide to omit this word in one part of your project, this has to be consistent throughout the project. This way, your code will be easy to read and clear to other programmers. Okay, we have created the animator field. Let's drag the component into this field. Here is the field for the animator. The animator component is here under man, drag it here. By the way, there's a circle here. If you click on it, Unity will offer you all the objects that can appear in this field. There is only one animator component in our scene, so choose it. Sometimes it's more convenient to just click here instead of searching the entire scene. Okay, we have the animator, or rather, the link to it here. I'll remove the start so that it doesn't distract us. Here's how we change the animator parameters using the script. When we click the mouse button down, the animator must switch to running. Go to the animator field and call the setBool method. Then write the name of the parameter. I called it run. Now specify whether it's true or false. True, by checking the box. I also want to turn it off when we release the mouse button. We have mouse button down here. We have mouse button for when we're holding the mouse, so now we need to focus on the moment when we release the button. If input get mouse button up. This string is triggered when the mouse button is released. 0 stands for the left mouse button, then underscore animator.setBool, run, false, turn it off. That's all. Here it switches to true and here to false. We'll learn about dancing later when we make the finishing line for our character. Okay, something's happening, but there's one thing we missed. The animation should be looped. Right now, when I click, the character finishes one phase of running and then just moves forward without changing the pose. We can configure this in the animation files. For example, run. Check the loop time box here to loop the animation. This goes for all other files as well. Our character should run and dance endlessly. Let's also go to the starting frame and configure run to be false. The character shouldn't run in the beginning, so deselect this box. Later we'll manage it using the script. Alright. It stands pensively, doing nothing, then runs, stops, runs. Its arms are placed weirdly, not really in a natural way. A little funny. Let's summarize. You can create animations in games yourself, but it's more convenient for programmers to download animations of anthropomorphic characters from Mixamo. When working with animation, we use the animator component. This is a component in which we configure transitions between animations. To change the animator's state via the script, in this lesson we use the setBool method. There are other parameter types. For these, we use setInt, setFloat, and setTrigger methods.